to have a successful purchase.
That's right. Hey, Jason.
Hey, Awni, and I'm joined here by Awni Abbas of the Abbas Group, and we are going to go over some of the things here that you can do to ensure that you have a smooth transaction. And we all want to have a smooth transaction when it comes to a home purchase. So these are 10 steps that you can take to ensure that smooth transaction. So again, I'm joined here by Awni Abbas of the Abbas Group and author of the book Ultimate Guide to Central Phoenix Real Estate. I think I got that title right, didn't I?
You did. You certainly did. Hello to all the viewers out there.
There's the face.
This is our first, I think this is our first video broadcast here.
Yeah, this is one of the first video broadcasts. We're trying out this Google Hangouts Live, and if you're listening to us through a podcast, you can certainly check us out. I do try to do these as a live Google Hangout, so if you want to watch and see who we are, put a face to the name, you can certainly do that by checking us out on Google+. And my name is spelled Jayson, Bates, Bates, and just look me up, and I'll be sure to friend you and put you in one of my circles, and then you will get an invite to this Google Hangout. And certainly, if you want to reach out to the show, I'd love your feedback on the show, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. Please email the show if there's a topic that you'd like for us to talk about that's kind of, to your situation. We would be more than happy to go over your situation and kind of walk you through that. And you can do that by emailing the show at valleyofthesunrealestateshow@gmail.com, or you can call me directly at 602-573-3101. And if I don't answer, you can leave a message, and I will be sure and get it, and then we can go over that situation or your particular question the next broadcast that we do. So let's if you don't mind, Awni, let's kind of dive right into this one. I want to get right to the core of this because there's a lot of people, we get in these situations here where it's just very frustrating. You hear a lot of people, they say, hey, I had a great experience, or they just say, hey, I had a horrible experience. I'd never use that guy again.
Right. I get it all the time.
Yeah, and I do as well. And so I will tell you, audience out there listening, we do not in any way, shape, or form try to sabotage your deal. With that being said, there are situations out there that are beyond our control. There are situations with the seller, situations maybe with the appraisal, situations with home inspections, situations that are just beyond our control.
Right.
So I'll put that disclaimer out there. We do not, we've been doing this a long, long time. We kind of know what to look for, if you will, but we're not always, fortune tellers, so to speak. So we try to anticipate any problems that may occur, but we can't always anticipate all of the problems that may occur.
Exactly. Thank you for disclosing that.
Yeah. So let's kind of dive right into these 10 steps here. So we're going to kind of break these down into a couple different categories. So before you start shopping for a property, there's a few things that you want to do so that you have a smooth transaction. And number one is going to be take a look at your finances. And when I say that, we want you to kind of take a look at what you're paying in rent and what you're comfortable in paying in rent, or what you're comfortable in paying in a mortgage. Because a mortgage payment is going to be slightly different than a rent payment. Rent is flat. There's no taxes. There's typically no insurance. There's no interest. There's no HOAs. There's none of that stuff in there. Where on a mortgage, you're going to have those things. And so the principal and interest or PI payment may not, if you're comfortable paying, $700 in rent or $1,000 in rent, your principal and interest payment might be $700, but then you got to tack on these other things. And so take a look at your finances, your budget, where you anticipate being, if you think you're going to get a job promotion in the near future, those sort of things, because that will help you be more comfortable with that home payment that can be a little scary.
That's right. And I want to throw this out there too, viewers. In Arizona right now, renting is more expensive than buying right now. We're about, 30%? It's 30% cheaper to buy in our metro area. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is absolutely insane how rent is just going through the roof here in Arizona. It's incredible. So definitely take a look at your finances there. And we've gone over some of those things in the past as to rents going up, your mortgage payment. Once you get that locked in at 30 on a 30-year fixed or 15-year or whatever term you decide, it's not going to change. The only thing that's going to change that is your taxes or your insurance. That's the only two variables, and maybe the
Yeah,
HOA if the HOA changes.
and two, with the homeowners insurance, they can get discounts if they bundle it up with their vehicle. So I mean, they
Absolutely.
do want to connect with their insurance agent and see if they can get even more of a discount.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thus, creating a lower payment.
Right. So that was step number one. Take a look at your finances. Now, step number two, and I'm going to kind of go through these first couple steps because we don't always follow these steps when we're looking for a property, right? We always go online, we go to Zillow or we go to Trulia or we go to Realtor.com or some of these other real estate websites. Maybe we can just drive around the neighborhood and we call on a yard sign. We kind of tend to put the property before we put the finances. So this is just to set you up for success, not set you up for disappointment. I don't want to say failure. I just want to say disappointment because you may be looking at a house that you may not be able to afford. So, or at least in the eyes of a lender. So, take a look at the finances. Number two is going to be start with a pre-approval. Now, with the pre-approval, that's where I come into play. And so you would call somebody like myself, a licensed mortgage professional. Make sure I emphasize that word licensed. All mortgage professionals are licensed. I have a certain standard that I have to meet here in the state of Arizona, both with the state and with the federal guidelines. And not everybody has to do that. Some banks, they do have federal and state regulations, but they're not as stringent as somebody like myself. So I suggest with somebody who is licensed through the NMLS system. So get that pre-approval, and there's a slight difference there. And I think that's probably another episode I need to do, quite honestly,
Absolutely, yes,
between
yes.
pre-qual and pre-approval. But you want to talk to a mortgage professional. You want to go through your finances that you kind of took a look at yourself, and really get a professional opinion as to what you can qualify for. And you want to know kind of your maximum. You want to kind of know your minimum for your minimum standard, if you will. And then once you have that, you're going to have a pretty good idea, a pretty good sense of your affordability. And then with that being said, that's going to give you a lot of confidence when you go out and make an offer on a property.
I definitely want to touch base on this too because it is so crucial to start with that pre-approval first. Oftentimes, Jason, I have buyers that call me and they are not approved whatsoever and they want to go out right away looking at houses. Well, I do explain to them that they need to get their finances in line first before we go out there looking. The reason being is because if I do not know what you are potentially qualified up to, how would I know to stay under that price point? You're just setting yourself up for disappointment. If we're going out looking at $300,000 properties right away without a qualification. How would I know by the time that you are truly qualified, you end up being in the 200,000 range? That would be very disappointing. So please, please, whatever you do, viewers out there, get with the lender first, get with Jayson, and find out what your qualifying power is first, and then connect with me. That way we can go out looking for the right type of properties for you.
Absolutely. And there's a thing out there called buyer's remorse. And that's a real thing. I
Yes,
encounter
it
that with a lot of buyers all the time, and I know Ani he does as well. So
is. Yes.
you find the house, you get all excited, and first of all, let's just put it out there. Home buying is not necessarily a financial decision. It is, but it's also an emotional decision, and sometimes that emotion can get the best of us. And so
Right.
it's important to keep your emotions in check, and keep when you're talking about finances and what you're comfortable with, be realistic with yourself on what you're comfortable with. I'm not going to push you in any one direction for anything. Neither is Ani. We're going to work within your comfort level. That's part of the success of having a smooth transaction. We don't need the
Absolutely.
emotions getting the best of us and everybody yelling at each other. That doesn't do anybody any good. Although I don't yell at anybody, but if you get upset at me, I don't really want to hear you yelling at me either. So, just keep that in mind, I guess, for
Right.
better way of putting it. So we want to we want to be realistic with what you have, and we want to keep that, buyer's remorse. We don't want, with what Ani was saying there, hey, you may be able to afford a $300,000 house, and I may be able to get you approved, but then you look at that payment, and you start thinking, man, I don't know if I can afford that. I don't know if I can go out to dinner. I don't know if I can go to the movies with that payment, or
Exactly.
your lifestyle, the one you want to live.
And our eyes are bigger than our wallets at times.
Absolutely. Amen to that. No question.
Yeah.
No question about that. So now, once you've gotten your pre-approval, and this kind of, this pre-approval kind of goes in hand with finding an agent. There are many different ways to find an agent. Obviously, we want to put it out there. Ani's very accessible. He's all over Facebook. He's all over Google Plus. He's always posting things, success stories, all that kind of stuff. He's on Twitter. I mean,
I am everywhere. You can find me everywhere.
Yeah, he's internet space man, or
Social media king.
There you go. So you're all over the internet. You can certainly find him. You can read about him. You can certainly pick up his book and read about him. Here's the thing I'm going to say when finding an agent. Most people find an agent by referral, or they'll call on a yard sign, or maybe they call from the lead on, Truly or something like that. They have numbers and stuff like that on their Zillow, and they'll call and they just accept it. I'm going to ask everybody to take a little bit more of a step further in that process. That's fine. You can call the realtor whoever you want, however you want, but interview that realtor. Ask them about their experience. Don't be bashful about that. Don't ask just about the property, and then the realtor tells you that information. You say, okay, well, he must be qualified to represent me, so here you go.
Exactly. And I actually touch on that on my book. There's a chapter about how to interview real estate agents and what to look for in an agent. Now, remember, guys, there's two different types of agents. There's agents, and then there's licensed realtors that are subscribed to the MLS, and they abide by a code of ethics. So, for instance, myself and my team and my group, we are all certified licensed realtors, okay, with the little trademark of the R on the side there, and we do abide by, we're all members of the board, the Association of Realtors in Arizona, and also the National Association of Realtors. So they're kind of, we're both still agents, but we have a higher a level, let's just say, of certifications in what we do. So yeah. I would use a licensed realtor that belongs to a board. And MLS, of course, the MLS. That's where all the properties are.
Yeah, absolutely. But not everybody has access to the MLS, right? So when you're just finding an agent, and I've talked to a lot of people, I've spoken to my brother. He's like, I wouldn't even know where to turn to find the right agent. It's not just finding the right agent. Obviously, ask friends, family members, that sort of thing. You can research online. You can check out how successful a realtor is. A lot of times they'll put on their web pages and stuff like that. But that's all kind of, I don't want to say hocus pocus. You really got to deal with people that you trust and you like. And part of that is getting to know that person. It's kind of like a date, if you will. I mean, you got to get to know that person and know who they are, know what they represent, their angle on the world, if you will, their angle on real estate. I mean, this is a big decision. It's a big decision. And so you want to make sure that the realtor is, and for that, I mean, even the loan officer, you want to make sure that the loan officer and the realtor are representing you properly.
Right. In your best interest. I mean, there's so much that goes on with finding the right agent. I mean, you have to jive well with that agent. Right. And the biggest important thing too, I do recommend using a full-time realtor. I can't express that enough, that a part-time realtor just has no clue. They live in this feathered cloud and don't really know the market. They really do not know the market as much as we do. I mean, we do this 24/7, so we know what's out there, what's going on, and how we can help you to your benefit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You got to have a full-time realtor. I mean, I don't know why anybody would use a part-time realtor unless it's their mom or dad or something like that. And then, then but if somebody who's part-time, you meet at work and they're just doing real estate on the weekends,
That's a no-no. That is a no-no. They have no clue what's going on with the market. I'm telling you, it's a
Yeah,
very different experience. So
very
please,
cool.
please hire a full-time realtor.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. So now that you found your realtor, now what's the next step here, Ani? What after they find you, what else? And let's kind of break that down. So this is all before shopping for the property, right? This is before you've gone out and done your, I don't know, open house or whatever, or maybe drive the neighborhood or whatever. This is before you have found your property.
Yeah,
So
well, they can do several things actually before finding a property. They can scope the neighborhood, like you touched base on. They could visit the local police department, the county and planning department in your city, do some research, my book, you know. Uh,
right.
there's quite a few things that you can do prior to making an offer. There's so many resources that we could provide to you. Schools is another thing. We have all of the resources for you. We've got all of that. And we actually touched base on this, Jason, on the last episode, either the last episode or so, about the buyer advisory. I mean, it's something that we could provide for free to you.
Yep.
And it's got a list of all kinds of different resources as a buyer.
Absolutely.
There's
Absolutely.
so much information. I mean, that thing is about 12 pages long.
Well,
So
there's a lot of
lots to
information.
know.
Absolutely. So now this is kind of the next step. So you've kind of before shopping for the property, now before you make your offer, you found your agent. You want to visit, like Ani said, the schools. Because in most cases you're going to have a pretty good idea if you
Right.
live here in the valley of that you want to live, and so you can visit those places. Um, the police department, fire department, schools, whatever. Visit those places. Go drive the neighborhood.
Drive the neighborhood in the morning and at night. I always recommend that, and in the weekends too.
Yeah.
Because during the day when we're showing properties, nobody's home, right? For the most cases, and it's pretty quiet. So I always recommend to the buyers to go out there after 5 o'clock, see how that neighborhood is like, and on the weekends as well, because that's when they come out.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely, and go sit in a Starbucks and kind of check it out. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a Starbucks on every corner, and you're going to get a good pulse of the people who live and represent that neighborhood just by visiting that Starbucks, really. So, do those sort of things. Now, if you're out of state, and we do have a lot of out of staters that move here to Arizona, that's
Yes.
where having the right agent is going to be able to provide you with the proper information and give you direction. They're going to ask you questions like, what are your goals? Where do you want to live? What kind of amenities do you want to have? What do you need a hospital close? Do you need golf courses close to you? What is it that you're looking for? And the right agent's going to ask you those questions. The wrong agent's never going to ask you those questions, and they're going to kind of put you where they're most comfortable, and that may
I,
not fit with what you're looking for.
Yeah, I love relocation buyers. I mean, I work with them, and I actually go above and beyond. So once I know that they're pre-approved, Jason,
Right.
I would go and take a look at properties for them and do video tours. Our iPhones, I've got an iPhone here. This is the newest one, and these things, I mean, they're HD, so the buyers can actually see the video tour of the properties and the location. I mean, I really do go above and beyond for these buyers.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, with technology today, you can take a video of a property, and
Photos and videos, yes.
yeah, and send it to the prospective buyer. You can also do these Google Hangouts. I mean, this is a
That's
great
right.
way to go FaceTime with somebody.
I FaceTime with buyers too.
Yeah,
So
FaceTime with them, and you can get a real pulse of that
who
agent.
they're
And
working with.
yeah, absolutely. And same with me. I do FaceTime. I'm more than happy to do that with buyers. And that way you can kind of put a face with the name and see that I'm a real person and I'm not sitting in some kind of cubicle and just, taking orders or, whatever. Kind of like those State Farm commercials.
Right.
But
That's fun.
anyway, and that's the other thing too. When you're an out-of-state buyer, sometimes having a local lender can help in that process because the local lender is going to have a good sense of what's going on here locally. The interest rates here are kind of local or regional, I should say. The interest rate you get here in Arizona is not necessarily going to be the same interest rate that you get in New York City. They are kind of localized a little bit. And so you want to kind of keep that in mind too. The other thing that is so important here from the lending perspective, and why I suggest using a local lender if you're relocating rather than your hometown lender, is that the appraisers. Appraisers, when I'm a local lender here, I've got a pulse as to what's happening here, and with the values, how long they may sit on the market, that sort of thing. If you have a lender, and I'll give you an example here real quick. I sent a file to a lender excuse me, not California, but Florida. And the Florida underwriters in Florida had no idea as to what's happening here in Arizona, why there were some adjustments made on an appraisal. They didn't understand it's not necessarily complex, but we have homes here in Arizona typically that don't have basements.
Right.
Where Florida, they may have some basements. We have hillside lots. They don't have too many hillside lots in Florida, and vice versa. Florida has a lot of high-rise condos. Arizona really doesn't have a lot of high-rise condos.
Very true, Jason. That's good. Touch on that.
Yeah, underwriting can get a little, and we don't need that happening in the fourth quarter of you trying to purchase a home. So my suggestion is to try to use a local lender. And when you're dealing with a realtor, they certainly can recommend a local lender here for you if you're relocating. So I'll get off my soapbox on that one. So now that's before you make the offer. So now you found your property, and by the way, that was like 1, 2, or that was like 3, 4, 5, 6, or something like that, or 4.
Right. We touched a lot of points there.
Yeah, we touched a lot of the points, right? So visit the county planner or police department or whatever. That's number 4. Number 5, visit local police department, fire department, schools, and then number 6, drive the neighborhood, both on weekends, mornings, evenings, whenever you can. So number 7. Now this is during the negotiating process. This is Awni's specialty.
Yes.
So number 7 would be what, Awni?
So that would be reading the contract. This is the negotiation process. This is what I'm excellent at. I've negotiated hundreds and hundreds of contracts, very good at it, and I am very, very proficient in explaining the contract to you. I always tell the buyers that they need to read and understand, more importantly, understand the contract. I mean, you could read the contract all day and not understand it. There's real estate jargon under that you and I, Jason, understand.
Right.
So really what I do is when I have an offer written up, I'll call the buyer and say, hey, you're prepared to review this contract. I will literally go line by line with the contract and point out all of the main points of that contract. It's extremely important to understand it, because once you have an executed contract, it is legally binding. So a lot of points to touch on that contract. It's about we're at 9 pages. We've had that contract for a long time through the Arizona Association of Realtors, and it actually protects the buyer more so than the seller.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to read the contract, and there's a lot of stuff in there, but take the time, read the contract. It's so vitally important.
Absolutely.
All right, so now you've read the contract, you're understanding, everybody's on the same page now. What's number 8?
Okay, number 8, ask for the exact dates.
So exact dates. If you're having to, move, you want to be very specific on your dates and your expectations. The inspection period, all these sort of dates that go along within a purchase contract.
Yes.
You need to be very specific with your dates.
Yes, our Arizona contract does allow up to 10 days for an inspection period. So we've got that, and then are we talking about close of escrow date as well?
Any dates, really. I mean,
Okay.
Any dates, in my opinion, on the contract when it comes to that, it's got to be very, very specific.
Right.
As our market is kind of morphing, in my opinion, we're getting now to more of a traditional market. So you may have to sell your property in order to purchase a new property. And the last thing you want to be doing is spending some time in a hotel between close of escrows. So you want to make sure that these dates are correct. When I say even the inspection date, I'm thinking, okay, well, I want that appraisal done within that inspection period, because if there's issues with that appraisal, I need an opportunity to either renegotiate that contract
Yep.
or to back out of the contract if I so choose. So
Dates are very important, actually. I'm glad we're touching on this because, especially close of escrow date. If we pass that close of escrow date, guess what? There may be penalties involved, and we do not want that to happen. So we want to make sure everything is ran smoothly throughout the whole process. And keep in mind, the realtor and the lender you have to have a good communication between the two. Actually, all parties, but between the lender, there's things behind the scenes that we need to do to meet those deadlines.
yeah, no, absolutely. There's got to be cooperation
Absolutely.
by everybody.
Right.
So that means the seller has to make the house available for appraisal. That means that the buyer, if you've gotten, we talked about step 1
Inspection.
and 2, having your financing in order. I can't be waiting for a pay stub from a buyer, 3 weeks into the transaction. I got to have that stuff up front. So, being prompt on that stuff, on your communications, and being responsive to the communications is critical to having a successful.
Same thing with opening escrow. Escrow needs to be opened as soon as possible. So once you have a ratified contract, you want to go to the title company and deposit that earnest deposit. Buyers, we're not waiting 2, 3, 4, 5 days later, after an accepted offer. You got to submit that. So definitely dates are very important.
Absolutely. So now, second thing, and just to go on dates here, if Awni is representing you as a seller, then you bet your bottom dollar he's going to be very particular about those dates, because it's all about you and your planning for your future, and those dates play a big part in that. So as a buyer, we can't just take it for granted that, hey, they're not going to put the house back on the market, or they're not going to do this, or they're not going to do that if I don't meet this certain deadline. You got to perform on it, or you're in breach of contract, period. And that contract will be canceled.
Same thing, on the seller side, when listing a property, there's dates involved as well. So every day that property is on the market is another extra day that I need to get it sold.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot going on.
Okay, so that was number 8. Now, what about number 9?
Oh, get it in writing. I love this. No verbals, no oral.
Yeah.
Get it in writing each and every time. That includes addendums, counters. That would include any sort of repairs during the inspection process. Anything that the buyer asks for, we must have that in writing. Nothing is enforceable when it is verbal or oral. Okay, so we always have to have it in writing.
Absolutely. And that even goes for the lender. Okay, when you go and lock in your interest rate, you're going to get it in writing.
That's right.
At least from me. Maybe some other lender, you're not going to get it in writing. Everything's going to be in writing when it comes from me. Good faith estimate, all disclosures up front, everything's in writing. Everything. And it gets to be kind of a pain a little bit, because when I send out a disclosure package, it's over 50 pages long.
Right.
It's a lot, right? But this is the world that we live in, and we've got to, put everything in writing so that we're all on the same page when it comes to your loan, the terms of your loan, the interest rate of your loan, the payment of your loan, all that sort of stuff. So
get it right. Let's say that in sync, Jason. Get it in writing. It's very true.
There you go. There's some laughter for you. I'll try that. Turn that down there a little bit.
Is that a dinosaur? What was that?
That was a belly laugh from my sound effect. All right, cool. So I'm trying out some new sound effects, so I want to try to, make it kind of fun for everybody.
Very cool.
All right, cool. So that was number 9. So now, how about number 10? What's number 10 here for successful close?
All right, we've got have a home inspection.
Right.
We got number 10. Have a home inspection. You know what? At this point, I require it. If you're working with me, It's recommended, but it's for me. I always present, hey, you've got to get this home inspection. I don't know how many times I have dealt with buyers who have either moved up or moved down, who have called me and said, hey, I bought this property and I ended up having termites. And
Yeah.
I would ask the buyer, well, let me ask you something. A very simple question. Did you have your home inspection done? No.
Yeah.
Okay. It is so crucial to have that home inspection, especially with an FHA loan, right, Jason? There's some
Yeah.
things that are really required, such as the
Yeah. Yeah.
termite
No.
inspection and report. That's required. And besides that, guys, buying real estate is a huge, huge investment. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars here.
Right.
To spend about 200 to 400, that's about the average on a home inspection. Don't you think that's worth the investment?
Yeah,
Yes,
totally. You can't judge a book by its cover. You can't judge the house by its
absolutely.
curb appeal, right? We
Right.
don't we don't want what was that Tom Hanks movie from the '90s or whatever, the Money Pit or something like that.
Yeah.
The last thing Ani and I want you to be in is a money pit. We don't want you
Oh,
piecing us out, 6 months after you're in the home. And I've had this happen. I've had buyers who have waived that inspection period, and then they call the realtor back 6 months later. Hey, I need to dump this piece of junk.
yeah. Yeah.
Get out of this thing. I'm tired of it. It's draining me. And it happens. There's a lot, especially here in Phoenix, there's a lot of investors who have come in from out of state
Yeah.
and they contract a bunch of people to make it shiny and new, make it look and appear shiny and new. They put in, the stainless steel appliances, maybe some granite countertops, refinish the cabinets or whatever. But then there's a thing called expansive soil, and there's a big crack that appears in the ceiling 6 months after you move into the property, and you're like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
And
Those
like,
reports, I mean, if you have a certified home inspector going there, that usually takes a couple of hours or so. You'll get a nice big package of
right,
items that may need to be maintained or repaired or replaced. So that's where I come into play and help you review that report and decide, what to ask and what not to ask and what's required, what I recommend to you as well. So super crucial. Oh my gosh, it is. It
yeah.
sure is.
Here's the other thing too that I want to say. When you look at a home inspection, in my eyes, that helps that used home, if you will, or existing home, helps
Mhm.
it become a new home, right? So on a new home construction, you have the warranty and stuff like that. Totally get that. But
Mhm.
there's even problems with new homes.
Oh yeah.
Um, but you at least you have that home warranty. On an existing home, you want to know the problems before you get into it, because then once you have that home inspection done, you then have the opportunity to go back to the seller and negotiate those items to be repaired, whatever they may be.
Yes, and this is during the inspection period. So during that inspection period, we are analyzing that report and assessing, what we may request or repair, regarding the, issues that arise through the home inspection. So you have that ability, buyers, absolutely. And
Yeah.
during that inspection period, you have the ability. Let's say it's a junker, I mean, you could definitely cancel out. You can cancel out for any reason, really, during that inspection period.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
we
there's a
help
torn
you
screen
exactly.
on. Yeah, there's a torn screen on the window.
Yeah,
I'm out. I'm out. And there's no harm, no foul. You get your earnest money back. You move on.
that's right. So,
So that's all part of having a good realtor like Ani help you walk you through that process.
and if you don't have a home inspector, we do have several different vendors that we can recommend to you and provide you with their numbers, and you can decide on who you'd like to choose for that service.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're not
Got the
you can
connections.
use whatever
Yeah.
you like for that service.
Mhm.
Now, I guess the bottom line here is don't go in this alone, right? I mean, we're here to help you. Ani and I, we've got a lot of experience. We know the valley. We know the pulse of the valley. We know what's happening. We know what to look for. We know what to potentially anticipate. But as my disclaimer said at the beginning, we're not, I'm not some kind of hocus pocus.
Right. We don't have a magic 8 ball. We're not psychics.
Although I have been referred to it sometimes, I have been referred to as Merlin Mortgage, making miracles happen.
I
Uh,
love it. Yeah. Well, that's true. True, Jason. You've revived some dead deals for me.
Yeah, so
Very
it
much.
happens. But when it comes to the property, that's all on Ani. Ani's the man that you want to talk to,
I
and
could absolutely help you with that from A to Z. So,
well, we're here to help you. So we work for you, And it's important that you as a buyer understand that. We're here with you, not against you.
And the seller pays my commission, just so you buyers know, because there's actually buyers that think that they need to pay me for that.
Right.
But the seller who lists the property, they pay out the commission to the listing agent and the buyer agent, so you can use me for free, guys.
Yeah, it's totally for free.
Free.
You
I
got
have,
nothing to lose and a home to gain, is what I always say.
isn't that fantastic? They don't
Yeah.
have to pay squat to use
Yeah.
me.
Let me give you a little sound effect for that there. There
Oh,
you go.
yeah, and applause. Where's the applause, Jason?
There's the applause here too. There's the applause.
Oh,
All
there
right,
we
well,
go.
awesome, Ani. Hey, man, I really enjoyed this.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So if you listen to us on Google Plus, thank you very much. Or watch us, I guess, on Google Plus. Listen to us on iTunes or however you're listening to the podcast. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day to listen to what we have to say. And like I said at the beginning of the show, if you want to reach out to the show for any questions you may have, any topics you'd like for us to cover, please email me at valleyofthesunrealestateshow@gmail.com or call me directly at 602-573-3101. And if you're in a situation where you don't feel you're getting the proper service, please reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to help. If nothing else, give you some advice as to your situation and maybe help you in your quest for home ownership.
Yes, yes. And anybody out there, if you'd like the ultimate guide to Phoenix real estate, please reach out to me, 480-788-4118, or go to phxrealestateinsider.com for your free book. Free. It is my book is about 220 pages of pure rich content. So please check it out.
All right, awesome. Well, hey, thanks again, Ani. And for everybody listening out there, appreciate you taking time out of your day to listen to what we have to say. And we look forward to hearing from you or seeing you in the near future. Take care. All right, bye-bye.
Thank you.